Hi, I'm Dan Stair of Daniel's Training Services, and I provide training and consulting services for the management of waste and also for the transportation of hazardous materials. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. This is a packaging or a package that was used for a product, and I got this at my local hardware store. They were done with it, and so I asked if I could have it, and here it is. And so this is a packaging that's used for the transportation in commerce of a hazardous material, okay? A specific kind of hazardous material, actually. So what I'm going to do in this video is explain some of the labels and markings that appear on this package, and one particular marking that I thought was a violation, but actually the regulations allow for that particular type of marking, and I'm going to explain all of that in this video here. So first off, what do we got? This is a cardboard box, or what's known by its specification code as a 4G fiberboard box. This was used as a combination packaging. It contained 4 1-gallon containers inside of it, so that's what's known as a combination packaging. And it was shipped as a fully regulated hazardous material. So they didn't take advantage of the limited quantity exception or anything like that. There's a couple indicators of how I know it was shipped as a fully regulated hazardous material. One is that they used specification packaging. Now you won't be able to see it in the video, and it's not the point of this video anyways, but this UN symbol is the marking for a UN specification packaging, and that's only required for fully regulated hazardous materials. Also, it's got the orientation arrows on 2 opposing sides. That's required for hazmat where there's inner liquid packagings. We got that. Also, it has the Hazmat Label. So that's what this is here, the Class 8 Corrosive Material Hazmat Label. And all of that is subject to the regulations, and it all appears to be just fine. Even the fact that this label is printed on the box, it's not affixed as a label, that's okay. And even though it's not the usual bright white colors versus black, that's okay as well, as long as it meets the requirements for contrasting color. What's also just on the margin of this label, and I'll try to insert a photo into this video so you can see it better, is the proper shipping name and the identification number. Okay, that's required marking on a hazmat packaging. And so the proper shipping name is hydrochloric acid solution. Now, there isn't a proper shipping name for hydrochloric acid solution. There's a proper shipping name for hydrochloric acid. So what that tells me is they use the allowance at 172.101 C10, that's in Title 49. They use that allowance to identify this as hydrochloric acid solution. So that tells me that this isn't, they classified this as not a pure hydrochloric acid, but rather a solution. Okay, so that's how it's identified there. That's still not the point of this video. What I want to draw your attention to is this UN 1789. That is the identification number for this particular hazardous material. UN for United Nations means you can ship it anywhere around the world with that identification. And then 1789 is its specific identifier for hydrochloric acid. Okay, everything seemed fine? It does. But as of January 1st of 2017, so just earlier this year, it became mandatory that that identification number marking be a certain size. Okay, so for most packagings, it needs to be 12 millimeters, about ½ inch. For packagings of this size, it needs to be at least 6 millimeters high, so a ¼ inch. I don't have a ruler on me, I don't think it even meets that requirement. And that's where I thought, aha, there's a violation here. And forgive me, but few things make me happier than actually finding a violation that somebody's making with the hazmat regs. But that's not the case. So, you know, sunny side here, they're doing just fine. Because even though there is that requirement for the height of the identification number marking on a hazmat package, there is also this in 49 CFR 172.301, stick with me, A1 double I, okay, so you got to dig for it, but in the regulations, it says there is an exception for permanently marked packagings, and that's what this is. This isn't a label someone stuck on here. I imagine they've got 1 million of these boxes in a warehouse someplace, all inked up and printed with this size, okay? So this exception for permanently marked packagings says, and I'm summarizing here, but it reads that a packaging manufactured prior to January 1, 2017, and permanently marked with the identification number at the smaller size can continue to be in use, continue in service until the end of its useful life, regardless of whether the identification number markings meets the minimum size requirements. So what does that mean? That means that this company can continue using this packaging until they've used them all up. As long as it was manufactured before January 1 of 2017, they can continue using it until they've used them all up. Now this particular packaging, its time is done. It's been used. There are some allowances for reuse. We're not getting into that here. But this packaging then will simply go to recycling and it will be done, and all of its other compatriots that it has back in the warehouse will all be used up. And even though that identification number doesn't meet the current height requirement, it's still okay. All right? So that's just a little thing about the hazmat regulations. If you ship hazardous materials, if you're responsible for shipping them, you need to know about that minimum height requirement for the identification number. I wrote an article for my blog on the subject, and I'll put a link to that article at the end of this video in the comments, and so you can take a look at that if you need more information. If you have any questions about shipping hazardous materials in commerce, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.